The blizzard came down from the high prairie like a living thing, white, howling, relentless. It devoured the horizon, swallowed the moon, and buried the trail beneath drifts that rose by the minute. The wind didn't just blow. It screamed, clawing at anything foolish enough to cross its path. Cole Maddox had seen storms in his time, dry gales on Texas plains, blue norther strikes along the Red River, mountain squalls fierce enough to snap the world in half, but nothing quite like this Dakota whiteout. It was Christmas Eve, though the night held no warmth and no welcome. The world was nothing but snow and the flicker of the lantern he held high while urging his horse forward. "Easy, Bramble," he muttered, patting the gelding's shoulder. "Ain't nobody dumb enough to be out in this, 'cept us." But Cole rode anyway, because the cattle on the north line were trapped in a bad patch of drift fence, and Ben Talbot, the ranch foreman, had begged him to ride a look before the storm broke full. Ben had a pregnant wife waiting at home by a warm stove. Cole had no one. It made sense for the single man to take the cold shift. He'd checked the herd, confirmed they were as penned and safe as they could be in weather like this, and was on his way back to the broken trail home when he saw something a shape, small, dark, UNMOVING. At first he thought it was just the drifted remains of a fence post, or maybe a coyote curled tight against the wind, but something tugged at him, something quieter than instinct, but stronger than logic. He raised his lantern, squinting against the blast dot. Nothing, then dash movement, barely a twitch, but human. A hand, a pale hand pushing weakly through snow. Cole's breath snagged. "Hell," he whispered. "Someone's down." He kicked Bramble into a slow, careful step and held the lantern out as far as he could. The light swung, dimmed by swirling white. Another movement, this time unmistakable. Fingers clenching, a face lifting a few inches before dropping again. Cole was off his horse before the reins even hit the ground. "Hey," he shouted over the wind. "Stay with me. I'm cumin." He plunged through the drift, boots sinking to the knee. The lantern's flame flickered violently, barely holding on. The Fictrasmol, half buried, was crawling toward him, crawling. Her hair was ice to her cheeks, her coat shredded by wind, her gloves gone. Her hands were red and raw, fingers blue at the tips. She lifted her head again, and for a brief second Cole saw her eyes wide, terrified, glassy with cold and exhaustion. She collapsed face first into the drift. God Almighty! Cole reached her, dropping to his knees. She was still breathing barely, but fading fast. Snow crusted her lashes. Her lips were split and bloodless. She'd been out in this too long, far too long. He rolled her gently into his arms. "Ma'am, can you hear me?" No response, just a ragged tremor that ran through her body. She was freezing, and if he didn't get her warm soon, within minutes, not hours, she wouldn't see Christmas morning. Cole hoisted her into his arms, rising with a grunt. She weighed almost nothing under the soaked, frozen layers. "Bramble," he shouted. The gelding trotted toward him, pressing close, snow whipped off his mane by the gale. Cole lifted the woman onto the saddle first, then swung up behind her, pulling her against his chest, trying to shield her from the storm with his own body. Her head rolled weakly against him. "Stay with me," he murmured into her cold hair. "You hear me? Don't you let go." She made a sound, something between a gasp and a sob. Cole kicked Bramble into motion and turned toward home. It was slow going. The wind blasted them sideways. Snow struck like thrown gravel. The lantern swung from the saddle horn, its flame somehow still alive. A little golden beacon in the monochrome night. Cole's arms tightened around the woman every time she sagged. She was hardly conscious now, slipping in and out, shivering so violently he could feel it through both their coats. "What the hell were you doing out here?" he muttered into her hair. "Storm like this, alone." No answer, only the rattle of her breath. He nudged Bramble again. "Hang on, we're getting there." They rode another 10 minutes before her shivering stopped. Cole, single quotes, as stomach dropped. That wasn't good at all. Shivering meant the body still had fight. Silence meant it was losing. "No," he growled, tightening his hold. "Don't you quit. Don't you damn quit on me." Her head lolled. Her face was frighteningly pale. Cole leaned close to her ear, voice rough. "You crawled toward my lantern like hell itself was chasing you, and now you're thinking about giving up." "No, ma'am, that ain't how this night ends." He spurred Bramble harder. His cabin came into view at last, a faint, dark shape against the whiteout, lit dimly by the lanterns he'd left burning on the porch posts in case the cattle check ran long. The light glowed golden through sheets of snow, a miracle in the frozen dark. "Thank you," Cole breathed. He dismounted with the woman in his arms, pushed into the wind, and climbed the steps. He shouldered the door open, a blast of warm air rushing out to greet him. Inside, the fire roared strong, the one smart thing he'd done before leaving. He'd piled the wood high, knowing he'd come home he just hadn't known he'd bring someone worse off than him. He kicked the door shut and carried the woman straight to the hearth. "All right, you're safe now." He knelt, lowering her onto a thick buffalo hide spread by the fire. "We're gonna fix this." She didn't respond. Her breaths were faint, shallow, quick. Cole stripped off his gloves and reached for her hands. They were ice, not cold ice. He swore under his breath. He grabbed a quilt from the nearby trunk and wrapped it around her. Not too tight, not too hot. You couldn't shock the body with sudden heat. He knew enough about cold weather rescue to keep her alive. He pulled her closer to the fire, adjusting her position, checking her pulse weak but present. He turned her face toward the firelight. She was young. That surprised him. Maybe snowmelt streaked her cheeks. A bruise darkened her left temple, fresh, angry, unmistakable. His jaw tightened. "Well now," he murmured darkly, "that tells a story." Her lips trembled, and she whispered something so soft it almost didn't exist. "Please." Cole leaned in. "What was that?" "Don't let him. Find me him." Socia was running, and someone had hurt her. Her voice cracked as she forced out another breath. "He'll kill me." Cole's teeth clenched. "Not while you're under my roof," he said, voice low and deadly sure. "You got my word." She didn't hear him. She'd slipped unconscious again, but he meant it. He stoked the fire hotter, gently warmed. Water rubbed her arms and legs to stimulate blood flow, forced tiny sips past her cracked lips every few minutes, checking her pulse. Hours crawled by. The storm outside screamed like a banshee, rattling the walls, piling snow against the door. But inside, the cabin grew warm, hot, even as Cole refused to let death steal a woman who had crawled through the blizzard toward his lantern like it was the last hope she had. Near dawn, the trembling returned to good and color crept slowly back into her face. She stirred. Cole was beside her in an instant, hand steady on her shoulder. "Easy," he said softly. "You're all right. You're inside. You're safe." Her eyes fluttered open blue, striking, rimmed red from cold. She stared at him, confused, afraid, trying to remember where she was, who he was. "You found me," she whispered. "You found me," he corrected. "Crawled right toward my lantern like you knew it'd save you." Her eyes watered. "I didn't know where I was going, just saw light." He nodded. "Good thing you did." A tear slipped down her cheek, maybe from relief, maybe from exhaustion, maybe from fear. "Thank you," she whispered. Cole sat back on his heels, exhaling slowly. "Name's Cole Maddox." She swallowed, voice thin. "Lena." He nodded once. "All right, Lena, you're safe now. Nobody's coming through that storm tonight. And even if they tried," his gaze hardened, "they wouldn't get past me." She shivered again, but this time it wasn't from cold. "Rest," he said gently. "We'll talk when the storm quits and you're stronger. For now, just breathe." She nodded weakly, eyes drifting closed, not unconscious now, just exhausted. Cole leaned back against the wall, watching her breathing settle, watching the fire reflect off her thawing features. Whoever she was, whatever she was running from, she had come close to dying tonight, and he'd carry her through the storm again if he had to. Outside, the blizzard raged on. Inside, Lena slept safe for the first time in God knew how long. Cole didn't sleep at all. He kept watch. The blizzard finally began to die sometime mid-morning, though Cole only noticed afterward, when the howl of wind faded enough for him to hear the creak of settling logs and the weak rustle of the woman breathing behind him. Cole Maddox hadn't slept, couldn't have even if he'd tried. Every few minutes he checked her pulse, added another log to the fire, or adjusted the blanket so it didn't slip from her shoulders. He kept telling himself he was just being cautious, practical, responsible. But the truth, though he'd never admit it, was that he couldn't look away from her. Lena, a quiet name, a soft one, but the bruise on her temple and the terror he'd heard in her broken whisper told a different story, one of running, and violence, and someone behind her who meant her harm. She stirred again. Cole leaned forward, slow and careful. "Easy, don't push it." Her eyelids fluttered, heavy with exhaustion. She looked at him in pieces, first his boots, then the fire behind him, then, finally, his face. "You're still here," she whispered. "Storm ain't about to chase me out of my own cabin," he said. Trying for lightness, she gave the faintest ghostless hint of a smile. Didn't want to be a burden." "You're not," he said too quickly, surprising them both. Her eyebrows lifted a fraction. Cole cleared his throat. "I mean, you almost froze to death on my doorstep. That makes you a guest by default." He pushed to his feet. "You hungry?" Lena hesitated, like she wasn't sure she was allowed to answer. "Yes," she finally whispered. Cole ladled hot broth into a tin mug and brought it to her. Her fingers trembled when she reached for it. He steadied her hands without thinking, then snatched his own back a second later, as though warmth between skin might be dangerous. She sipped slowly, color returning to her cheeks. After a moment, she whispered, "Thank you." Cole nodded, adjusting his stance, suddenly restless. For the next several minutes, the cabin was silent, except for the crackle of the fire and the faint sound of Lena's breaths growing steadier. Then, "Eyes still on the flames," she said. "You found me." Cole crossed his arms. "Like I said, wasn't much more than following instinct." "No," she said. Her gaze lifted to him, softer, but edged with something like awe. "You stopped. You saw someone in the storm and you stopped." He shrugged. Most folks would have heard her expression dimmed. No, they wouldn't. Cole frowned at the haunted certainty in her voice. He wanted to ask, needed to ask, but forcing someone to talk was the quickest way to shut them down. Instead, he said, "You feelin' strong enough to tell me how you ended up out there?" Lena's breath hitched. She set the empty mug aside with shaking hands. "I'll tell you," she whispered, "but you won't like it. Try me." Lena didn't look at him while she spoke. She watched the fire, like it was a doorway she needed to keep open. "I came north with a man named Wyatt Kane," she whispered. Cole didn't know the name, but the way she said it knotted his jaw. He was charming at first, too charming. Said he needed help running his trading post, said there'd be wages, and a room upstairs, and safety. Her lips pressed tight. "But he never paid me, and it wasn't a trading post. It was a place where he wanted control of everyone who stepped inside." Cole's blood went cold in a way the storm could never touch. "He hit me when I said I wanted to leave." Lena touched the bruise at her temple. "First time was 2 weeks ago. Last time was last night." Cole forced his voice to stay level. "What happened last night?" "He said I was his." Her voice broke. "Said no one would care if I disappeared in the storm." She swallowed hard. "So I ran when he passed out drunk. I took what I could carry. I thought I could make it to the Talbot Ranch. Someone told me they were kind." Her eyes filled. "But the storm found me first." Cole had to look away, because the anger that surged inside him was the sort that made a man do reckless things. She wiped her cheek. "If you hadn't come, I wouldn't be here." "No," Cole said, voice rougher than intended. "You would not." A hush fell, the heavy kind that wraps around people trying to decide whether to trust or retreat. Finally, Lena whispered, "Can I stay? Just until I figure out what to do. I'll work for it. I'll cook. So, fix whatever you need." Her breath hitched like she was already expecting a no. "Just please don't send me back." Cole stared at her. The firelight flickered across her face, softening the bruise, illuminating the quiet fear in her eyes. She wasn't a danger. She wasn't a burden. She was a woman, bruised and hunted, who had crawled through a killing storm to find safety, and she had found him. Cole knelt beside her again. Slower this time, gentler. Lena tensed. He shook his head. "No one, and I mean no one, is dragging you back to a man who hits you." She blinked fast, a tear sliding down. "You can stay as long as you need," Cole continued. "You don't owe me work or wages or nothing." "But no," his voice dropped low and certain. "You're safe here. That's all there is to it." She pressed a hand to her mouth, shoulders shaking. One's a small, contained sob of relief. Cole stood again, giving her space, because the sight of her crying did something to his chest he wasn't prepared for. "You get some more rest," he said quietly. "Storm's dying down. Once the road clears, I'll ride into town, get a doctor to look at that bruise, and supplies." Lena nodded but didn't lie back down. "Cole," she whispered. He turned. "Why are you being so kind?" He could have said a dozen things. "Because it's Christmas Eve. Because you were dying. Because no woman should suffer what you did. Because leaving you there wasn't an option. Because I couldn't look away." But he wasn't a man of speeches. Instead, he scratched his jaw. "Suppose I'm not the kind who leaves folks in the snow." Lena gave a small, honest smile. Not fear, not gratitude alone, but recognition. "Then I crawled toward the right lantern." His throat tightened. He nodded once, unable to speak. By afternoon, the storm was little more than a snowy whisper bending around the cabin eaves. The world outside was buried under drifts as high as Cole's chest, but the sky had cleared to a sharp winter blue. Lena was stronger, too, moving slowly, still sore, still tired, but her color was back and she could sit upright without wavering. Cole kept himself busy most of the day splitting wood, shoveling paths, checking the barn roof for snow loads, anything that kept his hands from shaking with the anger that built each time. He pictured Wyatt Kane laying a hand on her. He didn't want to scare her with his fury, so he took it outside, buried it in work. Late afternoon, he stepped back inside, stomping snow from his boots. Lena glanced up from the fire. "You've been out there all day. Storm left a mess." Cole pulled off his gloves. "How you feelin'?" "Better," she said. "Enough to help. If you need," he cut her off with a raised hand. "You do enough by sittin' up and stayin' alive. That's the only job on your list today." Her lips twitched. "You're bossy." He blinked. "Bossy," she nodded, teasing soft in her eyes. A little. Cole opened his mouth, shut it again, then snorted. "Never been called that before, not even once." "No, ma'am." He sank into the chair across from her. "Guess there's a first for everything." Silence settled again, but comfortable this time. Then Lena's expression shifted, worried, listening. "You hear that?" she whispered. Cole did. Footsteps. Outside. Slow, measured, crunching in the deep snow. His heart slammed once, hard. He rose, grabbed his rifle from beside the door, and stepped between Lena and the window. "Stay back," he murmured. Her breath trembled. "It's him." Cole didn't answer, but the fury he'd been burying all day surged up, sharp and cold and ready. Outside, the footsteps stopped. A man's voice called out, slurred with arrogance and whiskey. "Anybody home?" "I'm looking for a girl, ran off last night." Cole's hands tightened on the rifle. Wyatt Kane had come looking, and Cole Maddox was done being polite. Cole Maddox didn't move at first, didn't breathe. He stood like stone between Lena and the door, rifle angled low but ready. The only sound inside the cabin was the thump of Lena's heartbeat. He could practically hear it behind him, quick, terrified, uneven. Outside, the man trudged closer, snow crunching under heavy boots. "Cole," Lena whispered, barely audible. "Please don't let him take me." "I won't," Cole murmured, voice low and sure. "That's a promise." The footsteps stopped just outside the porch. Cole took 2 silent steps toward the door, his presence filling the room like coiled thunder. Wyatt Kane's voice cut through the cold. "Hey, anyone alive in there? Got myself turned around in the storm last night." A pause. "Lost something of mine." Lena flinched so hard Cole felt it. He growled under his breath, a sound not meant for her. "Stay behind the table," he instructed quietly. "Keep low." She obeyed instantly, slipping behind the heavy pine table near the hearth, wrapping her arms around herself as though bracing for impact. Cole lifted the wooden bar from the door, let it drop with a heavy thunk, and pulled the door open just a crack enough to speak, not enough to let the man inside. The daylight was white and blinding off the snow, but Wyatt Kane stood out like a stain on ice. Broad shoulders, an unshaven jaw, cruelty carved deep into his eyes, and something else barely hidden under a smug smile. "Well, ain't this a cozy little place?" Wyatt drawled. "Mind if I come in?" Cole didn't answer. He held the door steady with one hand and rested the other on his rifle. "What do you want?" Cole asked. Wyatt shrugged casually. "Lost a girl last night. Slipped out on me. Fragile thing, dark hair, blue eyes, quiet mouth. Can't make it far on her own." His lips twisted. "You see anyone dying in your snow?" Cole's jaw clenched so hard the muscle ticked. "No one here by that description." He lied with the calmness of a man willing to lie again. "Try the Talbot Ranch." Wyatt's eyes narrowed. "Funny, trail showed someone heading this direction." Cole didn't flinch. "Blizzard twists the snow." Wyatt smiled, a slow, oily smile that made Cole's grip tighten on the rifle. "Well now, mind if I take a look inside?" "Yes," Cole said simply. Wyatt blinked, thrown off by the blunt refusal. Yes, Cole repeated. "You can mind your business and get off my land." Wyatt lifted both hands in mock surrender. "Easy, friend. I'm just looking for what's mine." "Nothing in that direction belongs to you," Cole said. Wyatt's gaze sharpened. "I didn't catch your name, and you ain't gonna beat." A long, frosted beat. Wyatt's eyes drifted past Cole's shoulder, scanning the dim interior. Cole shifted just enough to block the view entirely. "Step back," Cole warned softly, "or I'll make you step back." Wyatt's mouth twitched. Big man behind a door. But he did step back only an inch. Behind Cole, Lena trembled. He could hear it, could feel the air tighten with her fear. Wyatt must have sensed it too. His smile sharpened. "She's here." Cole didn't blink. "You should leave." "I ain't leaving without her." "Well then," Cole said, voice dropping to something dangerous. "Looks like you ain't leaving at all." Wyatt's brows rose, but he didn't reach for his gun. "Not yet." "You planning to start a fight over a stranger? A little runaway who don't know her place?" And then something in Cole snapped. Not loudly, not visibly. Just a quiet, final break inside a man who'd seen enough of cruelty to recognize the kind made of rot. "She's not yours to find," Cole said. Wyatt laughed. "She ain't yours either." Cole stepped forward. "No, but she chose my lantern over your fists." Wyatt's smile vanished, and the cold of the world shifted. Wyatt's hand dropped toward his hip. Cole didn't shout, didn't warn. He moved first. The rifle but slammed into the doorframe as he lifted and fired in one fast motion, snow puffing up beside Wyatt's boot. A warning shot that hit close enough to burn fear into any sane man. Wyatt stumbled back, shock flickering. "Next one ain't going into the snow," Cole said flatly. Wyatt's face twisted with fury. "You're making a big mistake, cowboy. You already made yours." Cole didn't take his eyes off Wyatt, didn't blink, didn't lower the rifle. Wyatt's breath fogged hot in the air. He looked at Cole, really, looked at him, and saw a man who had nothing to lose and a purpose that burned like lightning in his eyes. Slowly, Wyatt straightened. "All right," he hissed. "You want her so bad. Keep her." His voice filled with venom. "But she ain't safe. You hear me? She never." Cole took one step forward and cocked the hammer of the rifle. Wyatt shut up. He backed away down the porch, down the steps, through the calf-deep snow. His boots squeaked in the brittle quiet at the road. Wyatt spat once, a thin line of filth on the untouched snow. "This ain't over, Maddox. Not by a damn sight." Cole didn't answer, didn't lower the rifle until Wyatt turned and trudged into the trees. He waited until the figure vanished behind the pines. Only then did he shut the door, slide the heavy bar back into place, and let out the breath he'd held for what felt like the length of the whole storm. Silence, then Cole. He turned. Lena stood just beyond the table, pale but upright, hands trembling. "You didn't let him in," she whispered. "No," Cole said simply. "You stood between us." "Yes." Her voice broke. "Why?" He didn't have grand words. He never had. So instead, he holstered the rifle, walked toward her, slowly giving her every chance to step back. She didn't. "I stood there," Cole said quietly, "because you mattered the moment you crawled toward that lantern. Because no one deserves to live afraid of footsteps outside their door. And because I ain't letting any man claim you like property." Her eyes shone with tears, not of fear now, but of something unsteady and hopeful. "No one has ever protected me," she whispered. "You were worth protecting," Cole said, voice softer than he meant. Still, Archie pressed a hand to her mouth, overwhelmed. Cole hesitated, then gently touched her shoulder. "He won't come back today, not through that storm. And if he ever does," his jaw tightened, "he'll answer to me." She closed her eyes, leaning into his touch, not collapsing this time, not desperate but trusting. "For the first time, Cole," she whispered again, voice trembling. "What happens now?" He exhaled, slow and steady. "Now, you rest, you heal, and if you want, if you choose it, you stay here a while. Stay." A faint, stunned smile tugged at her lips. "With you," he shrugged just a little, "ain't the worst place to spend Christmas. Cabin's warm, food's decent, and the man's, well." He rubbed the back of his neck, trying his best. A soft laugh escaped her, broken, but real. Cole's chest tightened at the sound. "I'd like that," she whispered. "To stay." He nodded once, relief warm in his eyes. "Then stay you will." Lena stepped closer. "Thank you." "Don't thank me," he said. "Just breathe. Just be safe." A pause, and let tomorrow happen without fear. Snow drifted against the windows. The fire crackled low and golden. Lena leaned into him, and Cole wrapped one steady arm around her shoulders. Gentle, sure. Outside, the storm had ended. Inside, something new had begun. And for the first time in a long time, for both of them, Christmas felt like a promise instead of a memory.